affect your emotion. I am happy to be joined by three distinguished psychologists, Ander, Lupita, and Mitch. Let's start with Ander. Ander, please tell
Uh,
us about yourself and your work.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. My name is Ander Larios. I'm a clinical psychologist, and throughout my career, I have read more than 150 books related to sociology, cultural history, and the philosophy of emotion. I have been in a lot of conferences around the world and in schools.
Thank you, Ander. Your work helps us understand how past experience change emotion. Now, Lupita, please tell us about yourself and your studies.
Yes, him. Hi, I'm Guadalupe de Los Angeles Cruz Gallegos, and I study psychology and especially in behavioral psychology 3 years ago. Since then, I've been focused on understanding how our behavior shapes everyday life. And I even published a book called Invisible Change: How to Transform Habits of Free Your Mind. This podcast for me is a space to share those ideas and help you grow through action.
Thank you, Lupita. Your book, Invisible Chains, help us understand behavior. I'm sure our listeners will find spring. And finally, Mitch, please tell us about yourself and your work.
Yes, Ximena. Hi, I am Michel Juárez. It's a pleasure to be here. I specialize in perspective psychology and discipline that studies how women begins imagine, anticipate, and prepare for the future, not only from a rational perspective, but also from an emotional and behavioral perspective. My training combines psychology with train and scenario analysis tools, allowing me to explore how change in the environment, such as technology, climate, or culture, impact the human mind and behavior. I'm passionate about researching how people and communities can adapt recently, creatively, and healthily to upcoming challenge.
Thank you, Michelle. Your research show how the theory of psychology can help people with emotion. I am excited to take and learn more about how the weather affect your emotion. Under in the past, emotion and difference mean how important it is it to study emotion in history to understand them today.
Yeah, it's so important. When we look back on Asian farming communities, the climate didn't just shape their works, it shaped their emotion. Imagine waiting months for the rain. When it finally comes, people feel joy, relief, even a sense of security. But when the rain failed, anxiety and despair quickly took over. Also, the storming was a problem. The storms add another level of stress. Farmers depend on water, but too much cold wipe on their fields overnight. And what's fascinating is that these weather changes were often seen as a message from the gods, which made the emotional impact ever stronger.
Thank you, Ander. That is very interesting. It makes me think about how our environment also changes emotion. So, Lupita, how does weather change our emotion from a environment psychology view?
Yes, him. Actually, from behavioral psychology perspective, weather influences our emotion by sharing our behavior. For instance, a sunny day can raise force outdoor activities. For example, social interaction and sense of energy, which increase the likelihood of positive emotions. And other side, on the other hand, a rainy day may limit activity. For example, encourage insulation or trigger negative associations, making low moods more likely. This is important because the note that weather itself doesn't create emotions. This is important. In, Instead, it acts environmental stimulus that shapes our behavior, and thus behavior in turn shapes our emotional state.
Eh, Thank you, Lupita. That shows how the environment today changes our emotion. Now, Mitch, how will future climate change our emotion?
Thank you for asking me, Jaime. If temperatures continue to rise, we will see more cases of irritability, anxiety, and insomnia. Depressive disorders could also increase in regions with less sunlight, and there will likely be an increase in problems such as post-traumatics, stress chronics, and depression, especially in communities exposed to frequently natural disasters.
Eh, Thank you, Mitch. That's true. It shows that we can choose how to respond even when the weather is hard. Um, Ander, after looking at the story of emotion, what conclusion can you share with us about how we should see emotion today?
Yes, the conclusion could be so in many ways. The claim detects more than the harvest. It detects the reign of people's feelings, their hopes, and their fears. And when we think about it, it reminds us that even today, our emotions are deeply connected to the environment around us. In this time, also the people change their emotion if the weather is different. So could be the same that in the past, for example, when it's a rainy day, the people feel sad or something. So could be the same.
Thank you, thank you, Ander. That help you say how emotion change with time and with they are important today. Lupita, so the real question is, how do you respond to the weather to take care of your emotional health?
Yes, him. I can say a sunny day motivates us to go out, exercise, or social life, which create positive emotions. And rainy day, in the other hand, might lead isolation and lower moods. But in conclusion, weather doesn't control our emotions, but our behavior does. We can always choose how to respond, and that choice is what truly shapes our well-being. That's all.
Uh, Thank you, Lupita. That is very practical. Now, Mitch, what do you think is the biggest challenge for people with climate and emotion?
Yes, Jaime, for me, in the future, the climate will directly influence our behavior. With more heat, we're likely to have less patience and become more tired. With less sun, we feel demotivated. We also change our social habits, spending more time indoors. The real challenge will be learning to be resilient so that weather doesn't control how we live, but rather we learn to adapt to it and this new climate. And that's
Eh,
it.
Thank you, Michel. That was clear and important. Your words show us all climate and emotion are connected. And with that, we finish today. Thank you to Ander, Lupita, and Mitch for sharing their ideas. And thank you to all listening for being with us. I am Ximena González, and this was our podcast about how the weather can change our emotion. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next.